you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics. Now today is the first version 2 dungeon. We're actually into the harder stuff now. So this is going to be Banished Cells 2. This is the continuation of Banished Cells 1 if you like. It's the second part of the story. Now we're going to use the same setup as we did before. 1 tank, 1 healer, 1 stamina DPS and 1 magicka DPS. Making sure that no roles are left out. And of course I'm going to show it on vet with hard mode intact. I'm going to make sure I explain all the different mechanics to all the bosses so you can fully understand it by the time you finish this video. Here we go. Now, Banished Cells 2 is the same layout as before. It's the same dungeon, it's the same map. Everything is where you would expect it to be in terms of the room layout and everything, but the bosses are different. This is a continuing story from Banished Cells 1. Now, the ad pulls are different as well. The first room, of course, traditional kind of pull scenario. Get your tank in the middle, pin everything together as much as possible, and chain in the range stuff. But as DPS and healers, make sure, of course, you don't run around the room, especially if you have aggro. And if you do, make sure you can run towards the tank. But above all, make sure that if anything is ranged and channeling an ability like an archer or a healer or something to that effect, make sure you interrupt them. Key point, of course, in this room and others is if there is a flame atronach, make sure your tank pulls them in ASAP. They're really, really painful. And of course, as a DPS or a healer, make sure you don't stand underneath them when they die because they explode. This corridor is a little tricky. Again, get your tank in there in the middle, pin everything down with as much CC as possible and chain everything into the middle, while the DPS focus on as much area of effect as possible and interrupt stuff that casts. So your archers and your mages are a pain in the ass. You have to make sure that you interrupt them. Again, don't stand underneath a flame atronach when they die, they explode. Next corridor again is very, very claustrophobic, just like this one. Make sure your tank again gets in the middle of the corridor, pins down as many as you can, and then of course chain in or pull in as many adds as possible to make sure that they lay off the group. Obviously you need to apply your taunts and everything as a tank, but of course first of all make sure that you get those adds in and pull that flame atro in as soon as possible. As a DPS or a healer, make sure that you're quite close to the range stuff as and when you can to make sure you interrupt them while the tank is controlling the room. Again, don't run around in circles, it's not going to help, and stay out of the bad stuff. You've got just enough room to stay out of trouble, just don't run around headless because it'll kill you. Now this boss requires some coordination. 2 atros there, of course, the tank should be pulling those in as soon as possible and taunting the boss to make sure that we've got aggro. And of course turn the boss away from the group. Now your group should position themselves so that they've all got plenty of room, not stacking too much on top of each other during the main cause of the fight, but as she crouches, when she does crouch, you need to make sure that you all spread out and move backwards. She's going to put down on the floor what I like to call the wheel. It looks like a wagon wheel, if you like, the spokes from a bird's eye view. You can see there the fire effects that are coming out. Spread out so you've got plenty of time to see which one is coming towards you so you can move away. The rest of the fight, of course, she'll put her hand in the air and she will put flame AoE down on the ground. You can see the tank is inside right now. If it hits you as a DPS or a healer, you need to get out of it quick. If not, then just stay where you are. You should be fine. You don't need to dance around the room. See, again, it attacked the tank, and now she's going to do the wheel again. So move backwards, move left and right out of the fire, and then when she's finished, come back in. It's very, very simple, but it can go really, really wrong, especially if you get caught by one of those flame lines across the floor from the wheel mechanic. It's really nasty. Now, once she's killed, go down the corridor to the opposite side that we came from in the first place, so that the gate is now open and you can travel through. And there's 4 skeletons that you'll be greeted with. The tank, again, can just grab them in the middle of the corridor and hold them still. As long as you don't stand in their AoEs, you should be just fine. And the next boss is what we like to call the Mega Jeff. If you're not familiar with my streams, any Daedroth is called a Jeff. This one is the Mega Jeff. He is massive. Now we're going to show you 2 parts of the mechanics for this particular fight. First of all, we're going to show you what not to do. Then we're going to show you what you should be doing. The main thing to remember is if he punches you and you go down on the ground, you are going to be affected with a damage over time fire effect. And every second or so, that is going to drop a flame AoE on the ground. So while that dot is on you, if you move, you drop a flame AoE on the ground. You move again, it drops another one, and so on and so forth. And if you're not already with me, you'll see that basically every time it drops it, it lays on the ground, and you fill the room with fire. You do not want to do that. Bob just got hit there, so he's now moving towards us, and you'll see behind him is a big trail that doesn't go away. So if your group are running around the room and you get that on you, you're going to be stuffed because it's going to fill the room. You have to make sure you focus and stay still as much as possible. The big flame AoE that he throws, make sure you stay out of the way of it. It's random which way he fires. All you need to do is step out of the cone and you'll be fine. Now the way to do this to make sure you don't spread fire around the room, you'll see Looney in a moment, our tank will actually try to stand still. Now if you focus heals on the tank, most tanks can stand in that fire for the duration of the entire fight. You can see how this room is now full of it. Already, well, it can get a lot worse. So now Looney has planted his feet, and we're going to show you how to do it properly, we'll say, without actually kiting the boss and filling the room full of fire. Hold him still. As a DPS, all you need to do is stand still, and as a healer, all you need to do is heal the tank and or the group if they take any damage. Now the tank will be mostly the one that gets hit. He'll be getting hit with light attacks, he'll get hit with a really big smash, and when he gets hit with a smash, he'll go down quickly, and he'll be stunned for a couple of seconds. When that happens, again, another flame dot will be placed on him, and more fire gets dropped on the ground over and over and over. So the longer the fight, the more dots the tank will receive, and of course, the more flame there is on the ground. Now you see that flame breath? Again, all you've got to do is step out of it, and then just get back to where you were. The boss doesn't actually attack anybody else in the room except for that flame breath. So get your tank to plant their feet, stand still, don't panic, hold a taunt, and survive. The healer keeps the tank up, the group kill the boss, everybody's happy. Don't run around the room, you'll spread fire, and the more fire around the room, the harder it is to find a safe spot, and you will all die. Fairly standard fight. If you start from the very beginning without somebody else getting aggro, of course the tank can just plant the boss in the very middle of the room, and you're all good to go from there. He doesn't even need to move, you can keep him dead center. Now, of course, there's two buttons in this room that do need to be pressed, one here and one on the right-hand side of me right now. Now, if you go through the corridor, which has just now been opened up, there is a bit of a bug where you can't heavy attack through the doorway. So we tend to just dodge roll through the enemies to get to the other side, and then we can start killing them from there. But standard stuff here, tank should get in the middle, pin everything down, and of course, as a DPS or a healer, don't stand underneath the flame atronach when it dies, because it will explode. A little bit of lightning damage coming from the mages. Make sure you don't stand in that for too long, otherwise you're going to die. Failing that, if your healers are on point, you should be okay. But above all, of course, burn these down as quick as possible. They're quite nasty, even though there's not very many of them. Their clan fears do jump. If they jump at you, make sure you block, otherwise you'll be knocked down, as I was then. If your healers are quick, you should be fine. If they're not, then you can take a one-shot from those. They're really nasty, especially for lower CPs. Tank should hold it still and turn it away from the group. The only major mechanic to watch out for here is the swipe there, the tail swipe. Make sure that you just move out of it or block it. If you run away, the clan fear will jump at you again and you will get knocked down. Don't run away, stay close to him. This boss is very easy, but it can go awfully wrong if your tank's not paying attention. Now the first two adds in the room can drop some nasty AoE, so you do want to burn them down fast, so your tank should grab everything in the room, turn the boss away from the group. The only group threatening ability from that particular boss is that he does a spinning kind of cleave effect, as you can see there. He's swinging his axe around. As you can see, it's very easy to avoid. We've all got our own positions, we're all fine, no one's getting hit. Now the key thing the tank has to do here, and I know it sounds very obvious, but he has a rather nasty heavy attack. Now this is a little bit naughty. It's not a heavy attack set to a certain amount of damage. If you miss that block, you are dead. He will kill you. It's a one shot. Now all you have to do is make sure, of course, you block it, but another key point to pay attention to is that heavy attack is slightly delayed. So at the second you see it, or the split second you see him winding back his weapon, you have to make sure that you hold block instantly, because it will hit you before his animation is finished. And I've seen a lot of tanks think they can just time it at the very last second and they die. He really doesn't hit that hard at all. In general, he's very weak, but that heavy attack will kill a tank. Even if you're a DPS and it gets you, as long as you block it, you're fine. But if you fail to block, it will one-shot you. These two enemies here get killed by the quest dude anyway, or you can kill them yourself, whichever. Now, the next room, the next corridor, in fact, is very busy. There are a lot of mage-type enemies. There's a lot of fire coming in. You've got to make sure that you get your tank in there first. Don't run ahead of the tank. If you're going to YOLO, you're going to die. Make sure that the tank has pinned everything, chained in as much as he can, and of course, for yourselves, for DPS and healers, make sure you keep your AoE stuff in the center of the room. 1 for heals and 2 for damage to make sure you burn everything down evenly. Again, don't stand underneath the flame atro when he dies, and if you see anything ranged doing anything stupid, like the red telegraph effects coming out of them, like little sparks, make sure you interrupt them. And we've got a stray off to the left there, but of course remember the tank's resources are limited just as yours are, so sometimes you can't pull everything all at once. So keep your eyes and ears about you and make sure that you just be careful just in case 1 or 2 enemies are not pulled in. Another clan fear here, obviously we're long range, who's going to jump, massive range, just block and move out of the way of it, and then hug up to him as tight as possible. If you stay with the clan fear, he won't jump for you again. You start running around the room, he's going to jump to the furthest target. So burn him down as usual, and when he does a tail whip, either block or just simply step out of it. They're very simple to manage, but it can go wrong if you're not paying attention. Next room is very similar to this corridor we just went through. Lots and lots of flame damage coming in. Some nasty Daedra in here. Make sure you get as much area of effect abilities down on the ground as possible while the tank pins everything to the center of the room. Again, just in case there's a couple of strays, stay out of the AoEs, like that one there is really nasty, and make sure you interrupt casters. Now you can get rooted to the ground, as you saw then there was a big hand come out of the ground. If that happens, just dodge roll and you'll break from it. This next boss used to be a pug killer, and possibly still is. She's very, very nasty, and she has 3 major mechanics. Well, 3 major phases, I might say. First phase is a group of Banekins, which you need to dispatch very, very quickly. The second phase is a group of Twilights, same rule apply, get rid of them quickly. And the third one is the Clan Fears, 3 of them, and they're really nasty. Now, you need to get as much damage on her as possible, of course, while she's in this phase, and avoid that blue ball. If you touch it, you are going to die. Now, she'll go in the ball, and out come the Banekins. These must die. Then she'll come out of the ball again. That ball will move around the room repeatedly, and of course, you have to make sure you don't touch it. And when she comes out, she'll do a spin and a really, really big AoE, as you can see there. And then a new ball will come out. So now there's 2. Every time she does a burst, there's another ball added to the room. Now the burst damage you can actually block or dodge roll out of, but do not run around the room because this fight gets really difficult if you start sprinting. Here's phase 2, here's the Twilights. Don't run around the room. Make sure your tank can try and control these as much as possible, and save your ultimates for the last phase. Now she's out again, she's going to do a big, big AoE, and as you can see, another ball has been fired into the room. 2 this time, in fact. Her second phase is 2 of them, not just 1. Now we burn her down again, as much damage as possible while not running around the room. Get ready, Clan Fears are coming, you must control these. Your tank needs to pin these down as soon as possible and burn them with as much ultimate damage as you can. The reason is because if you don't kill them, any phase that you don't kill will be with you when the next one comes out. Big burst, 2 more blue balls in the room. Be careful, don't stand in them. Let the tank position the boss while everybody else finds their feet. If you gotta move, move, but don't run around the room. And it starts again from scratch. Now we've got the Banekins again. Next phase, of course, if you don't kill her, is Twilights. One after is Clan Fear, and repeat. Banekins, Twilights, Clan Fear. Banekins, Twilights, Clan Fear. And the longer the fight, every time she brings that big, big AoE out, the more blue orbs you're going to get in the middle of the room. So be very, very careful. If you don't kill the Banekins in time, they will be with you with the Twilights. If you don't kill the Twilights in time, they'll be with you with the Clan Fears. You have to focus the ads. If you don't kill the ads, you're going to get overwhelmed, and that is what used to break pickup groups in the past. It's very simple if you understand the mechanics, but it can be really tricky if you start running around a room or if you don't know what to do. This deceiving little pull here looks really, really simple to manage. Do not attack first if you're a DPS, and if a tank goes in, make sure any DPS or healers dodge roll as soon as the tank has got aggro. This group has a nasty habit of picking one member of the group and firing all at them at the same time. So you can get one shot from this little group here, so be very, very careful. Your instant approach should be a dodge roll while the tank controls them. Really, really nasty. Area of effect damage dispatches them quite quickly, but you can get caught out on that one. Another Clan Fear, you should already know how to deal with these. Don't go too far away because it'll jump, and stay close once the tank has got control of it. Make sure you block or step out when the tail whip comes up, and you should be fine. The tank will get hit, by the way, by a heavy attack occasionally, but as a tank you should be able to spot that and know when to block. You don't have to block all the time, just when the heavy's coming in. Now the twins here are actually very, very easy to deal with if you know how to do it. Every so often one will get a damage shield and the other won't, so you kind of switch from one boss to the other. However, the pull itself is tricky because they're ranged and you can't just taunt it and it'll come to you. But as you see here, our tank taunted the furthest one away, then ran way out of its range into the corner, so it came across the room and stacked on top of the other one. That little tactic there is going to save you a lot of time. So focus one and make sure that every time they flash red, you interrupt them. And if one gets a damage shield, you simply switch over to the other one. Make sure your interrupts are on point, however. But because there are so many interrupts, sometimes they can move across the room a little bit. So the tank may want to run into the corner again just to pull it back into place. You can just keep AoE down most of the time while focusing a single target and then switching over as and when you need to. You can see now she's got a damage shield, so I'll switch over to the other one. But make sure you stay on interrupts. Do not stand in front of the bosses. That's not your place, that's the tank's place if you're a DPS or a healer. But do make sure you interrupt and help the tank out. Now as you can see here, this one's gone way too far. So Matt's running to the corner there. Matt is loony, by the way, if you didn't already know. And then the boss has moved and now we're back in a comfortable position. keep them in the dots. You will see occasionally that the feasts around the room, the little blue orbs, are coming in. If you get enough AoE down on the ground, they'll die before they reach the harvesters. Failing that, just hit them and make sure they die, so then they don't heal. They have a nasty stun in AoE at the front if you stand in front of them, so that is why you don't place yourself there as a DPS. Obviously, once one is dead, the other doesn't get a damage shield anymore because the other one isn't protecting it. They protect each other. One or the other will have a damage shield, not both. Last boss. This is a nightmare for pugs, but it's a very cool fight. There are two positions in the room. As you can see here, there is a big red glow underneath this flame arrow. No, that's not the effect coming from him. That is a red rune on the ground, and that is very relevant to the fight. If you are red in a big red bubble, you need to run there to get rid of the curse. That will make a lot more sense once the fight starts, but to start off with, of course, in here, make sure that your tank does the usual job of pulling everything into the middle and you interrupt the range while damaging everything with as much AoE as possible. Focus the big stuff. Now, if you look over my shoulder to the very far left of the room, I just spun my camera so it's a bit awkward to see, there is a blue rune on the floor as well, on the opposite side of the room. So there's a red one side, as you can see here on the right, big red rune, the far distant. And on the very far left, hopefully I turn my camera at this point, you will see a blue one as well. There you go, there's the blue one. So, blue bubble, go onto the blue rune. Red bubble, go onto the red rune. That is very, very important. If you don't get it right, and if you don't get there quick enough, you are going to die. It's very, very important that you pay attention to that. Often he will raise his hand and one member of the group will randomly get put into the air very, very slowly in one or the other color bubble, and you need to make sure that you get to the correct color as fast as possible. It will snare you, it will put a nasty damage over time on you, and it's really, really strong, so get there quick. Your healer should be able to keep you up on the way as long as they're not in too much trouble. Hard mode on this particular boss isn't a scroll. You don't have to press a scroll. There is a condition, and the condition is that you must have 3 Daedroths alive when the boss dies. They will spawn periodically from this particular location, and alongside them will be 2 orbs, 2 feasts. As you can see there, I was in a red bubble, so I need to go to the red rune. Now, the feasts must die. They're very small orbs. They don't have a lot of health, but the DPS need to focus them as soon as possible. As you can see on my right there, just got hit by a Daedroth. There's 2 feasts. If they touch the boss, they will heal him a massive amount. But also you'll notice that there is a Daedroth there. That Daedroth must live. Don't kill him. The tank can hold it on the spot, and every time one comes through, just grab the next one and keep them on the stairs. Now, I know this is very busy, but as you saw, there was lots of AoEs on the ground then, and that can look a bit confusing. I'm blue, by the way, going to the blue rune. Now, every so often, Rilis will teleport from to a different location. Now, before or after that mechanic, he will actually raise his staff and put up to 7 nasty flame AoEs on the ground, which will follow the person of his choice. So as you can see there, it's on Bob, so everywhere he goes, he puts another one on the ground. All he's got to do is just kite them out of the way, and you'll be safe. Don't stand in them, because they'll kill you. Again, another Daedroth has spawned with 2 more feasts. So the tank will hold the 2 Daedroths, and the group will kill the feasts. I just got a blue bubble, go into the blue rune. Make sure that when you kill those feasts, you kill them on the way to Rilis. Don't put loads of AoE on the Daedroths, because you'll kill one. And if you kill one, you're going to have to pace your damage on Rilis, and make sure another one comes out. Again, there's his staff. Fire, 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 fire. Avoid it, he's teleported. Go over to where he is, and burn him down again. Now keep watching. Every so often, another Daedroth will appear with 2 more feasts. The Daedroths also spit fire. You've got 2 options. You can either block it, or you can break free if it hits you. Now we're up to the 3rd Daedroth. This is where it gets tricky, because you have to make sure that Rilis dies while there's 3 alive. So what do you do now? The boss is teleported. You focus the feasts. You avoid the fire. You don't kill the Daedroths. Now, this is all you have to do from here. Just keep repeating. If you get a bubble, go to a rune. As you can see, Bob is blue now, so he needs to go to the blue area. If there's fire coming from the boss, you kite it and move out of the way. If you're not familiar with the term kite, it just means move around and place it in a safe place. Feasts, priority. Daedroths, ignore them. The tank's got it covered. Now, he's teleported again. Here's the fire. Stay out of the fire. And then keep hitting him. Daedroths will try and hit you, so keep your eyes about you, be careful. Now, if you get 4 or 5 or 6 Daedroths, if your tank can manage it, by all means go for it. But, if he can't, and there is a struggle, you can kill a Daedroth or 2 when you need to. Just don't kill all 3. Another tactic, of course, you can burn the boss like hell, all the way to very low health, and then just stay alive until you've got 3 Daedroths in the room. It's up to you. Again, fire, move out the way. Feasts, kill them. Bubbles, get the correct colour. Daedroths, try and keep them alive. So, hopefully that helped, hopefully that wasn't too boring, and hopefully you have a better understanding of how to approach that particular dungeon. It is bloody difficult, and it is meant to be. It's a version 2 dungeon, and they don't mess about. There's a lot of complicated mechanics, so it is going to take a bit of practice. But once you hone down those mechanics, and once you understand them fully, it makes things a lot easier. Get your practice in. Don't panic, don't run away into stupid, and focus on what you're doing. It's very important. Now, first of all, thank you all very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and if you are not subscribing already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support the channel outside of YouTube, there are links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com, where all of the guides and the written guides are as well. And there's a new forum there for Xynode Gaming supporters. And of course, don't forget, I stream 10 PM UK time every night on Twitch as well. Once again, thank you all very much for watching, and bye bye.